All right, you lovely people. It's time to finally wrap up this module on ethical subjectivism. I'll repeat it one last time. Hopefully the last. No, I'm sure I'll say it again. Oh, it's loud outside. I hope you didn't hear that. Anyway, what is ethical subjectivism? One more time. The meta-ethical claim that morality is a matter of individual acceptance because morality is solely determined by one's own personal reactions and feelings. Morality is a matter of individual personal acceptance. And so before I even dive into the argument from Rachel's and Rachel's, you might already be seeing or thinking about some possible reductio ad absurdum type arguments against this position, against ethical subjectivism. And just so you recall that from last module, we introduced this idea of the reductio ad absurdum. Recall that the reductio ad absurdum is where you assume a claim is true and then show that that claim leads to some bad consequences. And so if you want to avoid those bad consequences, you need to give up the original claim. So let's suppose, for the sake of argument, that ethical subjectivism is true. And I think we can see at least two problems with that. And by the way, I'll just throw this out there. You might even look at the problems with cultural relativism and see if the same problems appear here. They very well might. I'm not going to go into that, but that's something I think you can think about how you might adapt those arguments, those reductio arguments. But here's some different arguments, problems with it. Because if you think about it, ethical subjectivism means you are never wrong. You personally are never wrong about what's moral as long as you are honest about your emotions and feelings. So if helping others makes you feel good, it is morally right to help others. Of course, now here's where we're going to the reductio. Of course, if you feel okay about genocide, then genocide is morally right. So yeah, if you're Martin Luther King Jr. and you feel good about helping others, then yeah, be Martin Luther King, be yourself Martin Luther King Jr. and help others. But, if you're Hitler and we always go to Hitler, right? Of course, and who I guess really thinks genocide is a good thing, then, and indeed his reason is very efficient in trying to make that genocide happen. Yeah, so if you feel okay about genocide, then genocide is morally right. So we get very quickly a pretty nasty consequence here. So this is our first nasty consequence that seems to come from ethical subjectivism, and that is everyone from Hitler to Martin Luther King Jr. are equally good as long as everyone is being authentic to their feelings. So as long as Hitler is being authentic to his feelings and Martin Luther King Jr. is being authentic to his feelings, yeah, they're both equally right in their morality, in their personal morality, because that's what they accept. But that seems pretty bad. I mean, no, good for Martin Luther King Jr., of course. But, we don't mention Hitler as like, oh, yeah, that's a great guy. Man, that was taken out of context. That would be awful. No, Hitler's not a great guy. Did some bad stuff. And that wasn't morally good. And so that seems to be the first problem. And now I can introduce a second problem, which is a pretty wild. I mean, this is pretty wild. So this comes from a letter written by Ted Bundy. And now Ted Bundy was a notorious serial killer who raped, murdered, kidnapped, well, not in that order. It's kidnapped, raped, and murdered. I believe that's the correct order. He did this to many women in the 1970s. He was eventually caught and went to jail. And then he wrote the following letter. Imagine getting this. This is to one of his surviving victims. He wrote this letter to one of his surviving victims. I mean, just imagine this showing up in the mailbox. So what does he say? He said, I learned that all moral judgments are value judgments, that all value judgments are subjective, and that none can be proved either right or wrong. I figured that if the rationality of one value judgment was 0, multiplying it by millions would not make it one whit more rational. Nor is there any reason to obey the law for anyone like myself who has the boldness and daring, the strength of character to throw off its shackles. I quickly discovered that the greatest obstacle to my freedom consists in the insupportable value judgment that I was bound to respect the rights of others. Why is it more wrong to kill a human animal than any other animal, a pig or a sheep or a steer? Is your life worth more to you than a hog's life to a hog? Why should I be willing to sacrifice my pleasure more for the one than the other? And then Wow, this is quite the conclusion. In any case, let me assure you, my dear young lady, that there is absolutely no comparison between the pleasure I might take in eating ham and the pleasure I anticipated in raping and murdering you. So, wow. And look, so he is just using ethical subjectivism, saying, yeah, there's no value judgments, it's all emotion. And for him, that emotion is pleasure. And that's all there is to it. And he gets pleasure from raping and murdering more than he would get from eating a nice meal, he says. And so I think we do have a problem if ethical subjectivism supports that. Indeed, recall I mentioned during the first week of class the common sense view of morality. This is just what we typically think morality involves. And I'm pretty sure common sense morality says that what Ted Bundy did was wrong, period. There is no justification for what Ted Bundy did. It's just off the charts wrong. I don't care if he felt good about it. That, we might say he should have known better, if anything. I'm sorry. It's not, there's just a problem here. And so that's, I think, a very big second problem with ethical subjectivism, that we lose common sense notions of morality. And again, common sense seems to think that murder and rape is just inexcusable. There's no excuse that could possibly be made for that kind of action. And so, yeah, if Ted Bundy is morally okay, given the pleasure he gets from murdering and raping women, that's wrong. There's no justification. So if ethical subjectivism allows that, ethical subjectivism is wrong. So those are some reductio style arguments we might make. But again, I'll just repeat what I said in the last video about David Hume absolutely knew these criticisms would arise. And so again, recall he gives kind of this psychological answer that people are just constituted with similar emotional responses, and psychological impulses were not all that different. And so we do get that widespread agreement on common sense morality. We just widely agree because of our psychological and emotional makeup that murder and raping women is wrong. So people like Ted Bundy who find pleasure in those things, they're just simply mentally ill. So we reduce it to a psychological problem that they have. Yeah, it was right for him to do that, but he's also insane. Now I'll let you decide how satisfied you are with that response. But again, notice that ultimately it still boils down to everything being based on pleasure and emotion. It's just Hume's trying to save it or work around that with psychological regularities. But still, it has to allow that for Ted Bundy thought it was right. And so for him, it was right. And that's pretty scary. Okay, well, let's look at Rachel's and Rachel's now and how they attack ethical subjectivism. Now, what they do is slightly different. So what they do is they want to pick a very specific form of subjectivism, because subjectivism has actually gone through lots of evolution with different theories. And they pick one form of this theory that is really popular and common. And indeed, I think Hume would probably endorse this view. So I think it's worth spending on it. And this is known as emotivism. And emotivism says moral language either tries to influence someone's behavior or express a person's feeling, and moral language can do nothing more. So again, emotivism just says when I'm saying stuff is right and wrong, I'm only doing one or two things. I'm either trying to influence your behavior, get you to do or not do something, or I'm just expressing my own personal feelings that I like that or I don't like that. So, for instance, if I say, and Professor Gray agrees, this claim gets the Professor Gray endorsement, slavery is wrong. You heard it here, folks. I'm going to go out on a limb and say slavery is wrong. Vote for me. See, now I'm not pointing. I'm using my thumb. So when I say slavery is wrong, according to an emotivist, they just say, well, you're either trying to influence people's behavior by saying, don't practice slavery. Okay, I'm wagging my finger, not pointing my finger. So I'm either trying to influence you by having you stop practicing slavery, or I'm just expressing my own emotional responses to slavery, namely slavery makes me angry or upset. Or maybe at the extreme end, maybe I'm just saying, ew, slavery is gross. So again, when I say slavery is wrong, I'm either trying to influence you about slavery, stop practicing it, or I'm just expressing my own emotions. Ooh, slavery really gets my goat. Get off my lawn, slavery. That's really silly. Anyway, but that's it. Nothing more is being said about slavery itself. It's just an emotional expression or a means of influence. You stop practicing it. And so already you might be starting to think, that's kind of limited. the problem with slavery more than just a feeling? More than a feeling. God, I'm surprised you guys have made it this far. All right. It has some problems. And so again, Rachels and Rachels are going to do a reductio style argument on emotivism. And so they're going to show some problems that emotivism has if you accept it. And then they'll backtrack and say, well, if you don't like emotivism, well, it turns out subjectivism, any subjectivism is going to have this problem. Well, let's focus just on emotivism again. And they're going to find one bad consequence a really bad consequence they see with emotivism. And so we don't want that bad consequence. And so we should get rid of emotivism. And then we'll get rid of just the whole thing. Get rid of subjectivism all the way. Okay, well, what's the problem? What's the bad thing they see? Well, namely, they say emotivism says a good reason is literally any reason that influences a person to do what you want, or a good reason is a reason that makes that other person feel the way you want them to feel about something. So again, if I'm saying slavery is wrong, my goal is either to influence your behavior, so you stop practicing slavery, and if you stop practicing, I've given you a good reason, I guess. So it's all on the goal. Do I achieve the goal? Does my reason achieve the goal that you stop practicing slavery? Then mission accomplished, it was a good reason. And it's a bad reason if I try to get you to stop slavery, but you keep doing it. That's a bad reason. So a good reason gets you to do what I want. Or if I say slavery is wrong, my goal could be to get you just to feel the same way, that slavery is gross and bad and icky. And then I succeed if I make you feel the same way about slavery that I do. So again, that's all a good reason is. It's a good reason achieves my goal, namely that you stop or do what I want you to do, or you feel the same way as I do about it. And to show that this is really not a good idea, they give this it's an old example, I know, but it's just the perfect example for this. It's this example they give about Obama. They say, okay, so suppose your friend really likes and loves Obama and plans on voting for Obama. So yeah, this is a while ago. You were really young probably back then. So your friend loves Obama and is going to vote for him, but you hate Obama and you would never vote for Obama. So you want your friend to feel and do the same way. You want your friend to no way and vote for Obama, and you want your friend to hate Obama. Now you realize, oh, my friend is an Islamophobe. By the way, why are you hanging out with Islamophobes, people? You got to stop. Hang out with cool people. Islamophobes, bad. You need new friends. But anyway, so you know your friend is an Islamophobe. So now you want your friend to hate Obama and not vote for Obama. So you say to them, you know, Obama is a Muslim. And boom, the desired effect. Your friend now hates Obama because they're an Islamophobe and would never like a Muslim, and of course now will not vote for him. So mission accomplished. They're doing what you want them to do, and they feel the way that you feel about it. But is that a good reason to not vote for Obama? Is that a good reason to hate Obama? That Obama is a Muslim? Well, emotivism says, yeah, of course, duh, that's a great idea. It influenced your friend's behavior and influenced your friend's feelings. What more could you want for a good reason? Now, seriously though, Obama is a Muslim. Is that a good reason? Come on. Of course not. It's a terrible reason. Why is it a terrible reason? I love this. It's just 'cause it's so simple and true. Unless you're with QAnon. If you're with QAnon, come on, man. Oh, geez. Whew, get off those message boards. I'm sorry to break. So if you're QAnon, I'm going to give you a surprise now, a truth bomb. Obama is not a Muslim. So it's not a good reason because it's false. Obama is simply not a Muslim. And indeed, there's probably a second reason why it's bad, is that this reason is irrelevant. One's religion, at least the religion alone, is not enough for you to, it's just irrelevant. It doesn't matter what his religion is for his effectiveness as president. Now, if you don't like certain policies or actions that Obama might instantiate, now that could very well be a good reason as long as that's true. But saying Obama is a Muslim and that's it, that's not a good reason. Again, it's false. He's not a Muslim. Sorry, QAnon. QAnon, no, get off my lawn. But also it's irrelevant. A person's religion should not be a factor in whether they're equipped for president. Now, if there's a specific problem, you could say it, but religion alone is not enough. Again, if there's specific policies that the person might enact, that could very well be relevant if it's true, but religion alone is not enough. So it's not a good reason. So that is the problem Rachels and Rachel see with emotivism. Emotivism is too permissive with what counts as a good moral reason. And if you recall our discussions from our previous unit, unit 1, right? We talked a lot about moral reasoning, too much, probably. But again, we kept seeing this idea when talking about moral reason is that we just care as people about good reasons when it comes to making ethical decisions. And we talked about what good reasons might look like. They're consistent, they're accurate, they're impartial, and so on. And we've seen that we also recognize there are bad reasons that are inconsistent, wrong, biased and prejudiced, and so on. And saying Obama is a Muslim is clearly a bad reason because it's not accurate and it's really based on bias and prejudice of the Islamophobe. So while subjectivism says the only criteria for a good reason is whether it works, we commonly think it's not about influencing a person. It's about influencing a person with the good or the right kinds of reasons, not just any old reason. And then Rachel's just take this idea and apply it to all of ethical subjectivism. They just say ethical subjectivism is wrong because it gives absolutely no real role for reason and morality. Reason is just reduced to like this instrument, but it doesn't really tell us what's moral and immoral. It just helps us do it. Emotion is the one in the driver's seat deciding all these things. And we see that's just wrong. And maybe by now this is feeling obvious to you, because after all, I think we can all think of plenty of cases where our emotions definitely led us wrong. We were doing the wrong thing. We were getting pleasure out of doing the wrong stuff. I mean, isn't that the whole thing about, growing up, is that we learn a lot of the stuff we enjoyed doing was probably not the right thing to be doing as we get older. And we've learned, and this is a key hallmark, is that we need to learn to pause, take a beat, breathe, and let our reason appraise the situation. Because look, emotions in our gut are important. Any philosophy or ethics that says throw emotion and passion and feeling into the dustbin, into the trash, that is wrong. And I will not advocate that in this class, because study after study in psychology does show that emotions play a very powerful role in our lives. People who do not experience much emotion have real struggles in life in terms of making decisions and knowing what to do, because nothing matters to them in the way it does when we have emotions. So emotions are important. They can send great signals about what's important and if something's wrong. We do not want to get rid of the passion in our emotion. They are valuable. All I'm saying here is that we want to elevate reason, that it does play a role here, that reason helps us keep things from getting out of control, because emotion unchecked can lead to terrible, terrible things. And I hope you don't need me to tell you that. I'm sure we've all seen it in our personal and social lives about where emotion has become irrational and destructive. So again, emotion can be very good and very powerful, but it can also go very wrong. Reason should have a part to play in all this for helping us get there. And that's what we'll talk about in the next module, what role reason is going to play, and why relativism then as a whole seems to just not be getting us what we want or need. But that's next time. We don't have to do that now. Again, right now, I think you can take a moment to remove that arm flab. Again, put the arm up, pat the back. I'm trying to alternate you both arms, really give yourself a pat on the back, get rid of all that arm flab. Oh, no jibblies. Yeah, pat yourself on the back. You've earned it. So all that's left is a quiz, and you're done with this module on ethical subjectivism. And then hopefully get some break time in there, and we can come back with the final module for the week and finish this week-long discussion of moral relativism. All right, but save that for later. For now, take care, stay safe.